had to pause there for a minute, had some technical difficulties, but certainly, Kirk, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, just your connection and the way you have been blessed, through your connection with North American Mission Board, as a church planner, all those things. I want to talk to you a little bit about that journey because it's so applicable to the positions you hold now as Louisiana Baptist Convention president. As we're in a time when certainly we want to encourage cooperation, and you have been a direct beneficiary of that, and you've seen the support, that comes from working cooperatively together. So I just wanted you to, if you could, kind of share a little bit about your journey into church planting and how you've seen the power of cooperation in that.
Well, yeah, I mean, man, so when I was a student at Southwestern Seminary, there was a program back then called the Nehemiah Project, which was a church planning.
I remember that.
All right, it was a church planning cooperative between the seminaries and the North American Mission Board, and it was really built to be a 2+2 concept, like the International Mission Board had for a long time with the Journeyman program. And so, but I didn't get into it till about halfway through seminary.
Yeah.
Out of a church growth evangelism class, I began to have some passion for church planning. And I'll kind of tell you the story. So literally, I was in a seminary class, and the professor, David Wheeler, was passionate about church planning. So we were studying those types of things. And one night I was going on and on, bedtime, I was laying there going on and on, talking about church planning. And Wendy was trying to go to sleep. And she told me, she said, "Hey, if we're going to plant a church, we'll stay up late at night and talk about those things. But if this is for a school project, I'm going to sleep."
There you go. It's a good wife.
And she went to sleep, and I couldn't go to sleep. She had asked me, "Are we going to plant a church?" And now the next morning I was like, "I think God wants us to plant a church." Man, I really had a restless night. And I said, "I think God's telling us to plant a church." And she was like, "Okay." Like that was literally the fullness of our discussion. And so I got into the Nehemiah Project. And so there was, seminary classes and basically like a specialization in church planting, if you would. And so I graduated. So I went through that, which also included at the end, like this pretty intensive process with the North American Mission Board. Because back then, almost all church planting was just state convention and local association connected. But this program brought the North American Mission Board in directly also. So we got more funding through the Louisiana Baptist Convention, because that's kind of how the cooperative program funds church planting, still to this day. But then we had some direct monies from North American Mission Board and some insurance coverage. All right. And so anyway, so we went through this pretty intensive assessment process, and we were appointed for 2 years as North American Mission Board church planters. And so we moved here with that support. Struma Baptist Church was the sponsoring church out of Baton Rouge. They wanted to start a church in Prairieville, which had really begun growing. It's a pocket just out. It's actually south of Baton Rouge, but you're going east on the interstate from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. So it's a growing community. So Struma brought us in cooperation, which is how the cooperative program works in church planting. It's everybody involved. Local churches. We raised up some other local churches, co-sponsors. The church I had been on staff out in Arlington, Texas, and the church I interned in as a church planting intern both supported us, and another church from out there, Cook Baptist, supported us. And then Estruma was our sponsoring church. So, so we moved here. It's a crazy story of moving here. Like, some funny things back then of how some stuff was done. So like, I'll kind of tell, it's a little bit of a funny story. So we were told, like, the moving thing, you got $1,000 to move.
Wow. Big money, man. Right? Big money. Yeah.
So, and with that, you couldn't hire anybody, but we didn't know anybody in Prairieville. Like, I knew the minister of missions at Estruma. But honestly, he had injured his back. He couldn't help us move. I didn't know what to do. Like, so anyway, but we loaded up in a big moving truck with my wife's car on a trailer and her driving my Blazer, and drove and spent the night with her parents in Pineville where they lived, and then drove down to Baton Rouge, gonna close on our house as soon as we got here. We had lined up a house to buy. And I mean, it's a hilarious story. Like, it's MapQuest days. We had printed up maps. We couldn't even remember how to get to the house. had this crazy experience with the truck trying to park it at a Struma because we didn't know where to go. Like we knew where a Struma was.
Yeah.
Anyway, just crazy, but we had called a family, the Shirleys, who were from Cook and had moved away when I was in the 8th grade. Close family friends, and him and his friends came and helped us move all our stuff into the
Yeah.
house. And you know what? They ended up deciding to be a part of fellowship and helped us start the church.
Oh, it's great.
It was awesome. And so, but anyway, so out of that, the kind of the journey is, Struma let us recruit some folks out of there. And so 8 people
Mhm.
started meeting in our home in the fall of 2001. That was the number of people who wanted to go out and help start a new church. And, man, we just started in our home. We ended up meeting in a fire department building that was a bingo hall, had a bar room that they owned with a liquor
Why is it
license on the wall.
every church plant, ends up in a bar at some point? It seems like every church, every
Well,
church plant I hear about, they meet in a bar for a while.
they're not bars aren't used on Sunday mornings, and we need a
That's
space to
right.
use. So,
And there's a lot of those too around.
yeah,
So I guess that's a good, meeting
yeah,
place.
and so we had church in the bingo hall, and the bar room was our nursery, and that's how we got started.
Yeah.
And then we actually ended up leasing that building from the fire department. It wasn't renting out a whole lot, so they just leased it to us. We actually renovated the interior of it, and we were there for about 6 years until we built
Oh,
our
wow.
first building. And I mean, even in building the building, like buying the land in 2004, I mean, we have something as a convention called the Church Site Corporation,
Hmm.
and there was a big donation made. Struma actually purchased the property on our
Yeah.
behalf, with us owing them back for that. But then we got ready to build, allowed us to build and set aside the
Hmm.
property that we'd pay them back later. And honestly, when
Yeah.
we got to the place where we could start paying them back, Struma came back to us and said, we don't own it back. And they gave us the land. I mean, that was a $300,000 gift from
Wow.
them. Big, nice support from the convention. We built the first building with volunteers
Mhm.
through the Louisiana Baptist Mission Builders Program. A missionary lived on site and was the contractor. Different mission teams came in from all over the nation and helped build the
Yeah.
building. And I mean, our church members volunteered and worked. I mean, it's a tough process, but you got to get your first building. And um, I mean, we're incredibly grateful for the cooperative program. I mean, I say it this way to people, when you've been in the position I've been in, I've lived in the house that it was paying for and eaten the meals it provided, and my children have been born on the insurance it gave. And, I get to live this. I mean, I'll be honest, Paul, like God has done beyond what I would ask or imagine at fellowship.
Yeah.
It's a large congregation that baptizes. I mean, we're going to baptize probably around 150 people this year. And,
Wow.
I get to do
Mhm.
ministry. We go to Africa, we Honduras. We just have some really great men. We have 2 church plants right now that are doing well. But man, none of that was done in a vacuum,
No. No. Yeah.
right? The cooperative program is essential in that. Like,
Hmm.
for me, what that means is, you know, I think of the WMU ladies that I
Yeah.
remember
Oh,
growing
yeah.
up, right? Like, at some church in, Tennessee, who's never heard
Yeah.
of Prairieville, Louisiana, doesn't know anything about Kirk and Wendy Jones, but man, is just faithful and given to their local church, who's faithfully
Yeah.
participating in the cooperative program. And because of that, over 1,000 people have been baptized at Fellowship Church in the years since we started, and we're being able to do the things we're doing. But there's that great cloud of witnesses, I guess. But it's not just a cloud. Like
Mhm.
we have a system that we have built together, and I'm grateful for it, right? And now I'm a church pastor, right, who gets to invest back in it. We've been able to send out church plants in
Yeah.
cooperation with it. Right now we have 2 where they're receiving funds and support. Um, and so I'm pretty passionate about it. Like
Yeah.
I'm honored. I'm honored to have this, but I also think we're in an important season as a
Mhm.
convention. I think we all know that, the giving to cooperative program is not what it's been.
Yeah.
There's a lot of concerns. I mean, the SBC sent out a survey this week that I
Yeah.
answered as a pastor, and I think we all know that we're dealing with some of that. And in that, man, I'm for us figuring it out. Like
Yeah.
I'm not saying I have the answers, but together I think we got figured out because, you know, 20 years from now, I want there to be another story like mine,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and so, that's my heart for it. And, man, I'm incredibly grateful. I mean,
Yeah.
from my seminary education to my Louisiana college education
Mhm.
to the church planning support, I'm incredibly grateful for Southern Baptists. Yeah. Passionate
Absolutely.
about
Well, and I think that brings us, when we talk about kind of how to turn the current, I don't say turn the tide, but certainly the trends that we're seeing in Southern Baptist church life. Churches are moving away from the cooperative program, by and large. And I say that cooperative program receipts are down, and
Right.
it's not that churches aren't doing missions. I think I don't think that this is not primarily the small rural church that may not have any real mission projects or sending things going on. This is, I would think, probably more medium to larger churches that are a little more. They're supporting their own missionaries or maybe their own mission efforts, and those kind of things. And you've run the whole gambit. I mean, you started out as a church planner, with 8 people in your living room, and now here you are into what we would think of as a larger Southern, a large Southern Baptist church
Yeah.
by pretty
Yeah.
much any metric that you would,
Sure.
give to it. And so as you think about people that are all along that continuum, I know you talked about the little WMU ladies, and things, and
Right.
they're still doing their job, man. I don't
That's
think
right.
they're
Yeah.
slowing
They're not
down.
the problem for sure.
They're not the problem, The little lady with her bulletin board, in her small church, that church is probably. I mean, my parents' church gives like 15 or 16% to the
Yeah.
cooperative program. I mean, it's just unreal, and a lot of small churches do that. But how would you encourage maybe a younger generation of pastors, folks in church that maybe they weren't raised in RAs, or GAs,
Yeah.
and how would you encourage them when it comes to cooperative program and just cooperative work in general, associational convention work?
Well, that's a great question. I would say this. There's a lot of reasons in why we are where we are, right? Like there was a shift in missions themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and that just goes along with the shift in our world and our culture. I mean, the world has shrunk for us in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
And so, when I was growing up, and I rarely heard of people going on mission trips to foreign
Yeah.
countries. We had missionaries,
Mm-hmm.
right? But also I rarely knew people who traveled to foreign countries, right?
That's
Like that
right.
was just not.
Yeah.
So that's just changed. And in that, I think churches began to build partnerships, even Baptist
Mm-hmm.
churches, right? So there's this big thing we do, but there began to be direct things that they did.
Yeah.
And with that, I don't want to be critical of convention, but I think there's some things that are easier to look back at, right? Like
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure as those trends developed that, we as a convention responded in the best ways to kind of capitalize on that. How do we help you build direct partnerships where
Mm-hmm.
how do we help you with direct funding to a direct partner versus that becoming something you do on your own, and then therefore it's not seen in our cooperative effort, which is
Yeah.
actually how church planting is done, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the sponsoring or sending church is directly supporting it with
Yeah.
convention funds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that began to happen as churches began to do more and more of that. It's expensive to go
Yeah.
on mission trips, so trying to make it affordable for people. And I think with that was a shift, and I believe this is also a shift in our culture. And I would actually challenge churches and pastors to fight against what this can cause. It's not a bad thing, but it can cause something that I think gets in the way of something positive. And it's this: missions became way more participatory and um, emotionally connective, which is
Yeah.
good. That is a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
I think that's been a real
Yeah. I know where you're
positive.
going. Yeah. Keep going.
All
Yeah.
right. But if we're not careful, that's what we're looking for with our
That's right. Yeah.
missions experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
And missions needs our support more than it needs, right? Like I think it's beautiful to have partnerships, and we have some foreign partnerships, right?
Yeah.
That we go and directly spend time with,
Mhm.
and we have relationship with, and they love us,
Absolutely.
and we love them, and I think that's really key. But if we're not careful, we're spending more and more of our resources on us having those experiences than we are of really funding the work that needs to be done somewhere else. And I think that's been
Well,
part of the shift. And so that's what I would challenge the younger pastor, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with going on a mission trip, but how much money are we spending on ourselves going
yes.
versus really the work that's happening? Because, when I go to South Africa, the overall cost of a trip is somewhere about $2,600.
Yeah.
Do you know how much our partners can do with
Oh,
$2,600?
yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
Well, and
So when we're spending,
if you're taking a whole group from your church, I mean, it's very possible, depending on the size of the group, you could be funding a missionary family on the field for a whole
that's right.
year.
That's right.
For what it costs to take a group over, for a week or 10 days, so
Which I think
absolutely.
I think it needs to be a both and, not an either or.
Yeah.
All right. So, but you go back to historically, the cooperative program missions was something we gave to. There was a shift where missions began to be more and more something we went directly and did as churches, which I think is positive.
It is
My church
absolutely.
does it. We need to
Hmm.
do it, but somehow we need
Yeah.
to take these things along together. And my observation is that to fund more of our direct
Hmm.
work, we pull that from our bigger support work,
Yeah.
right? And there's a second thing that began to happen that is more on the negative side, is I believe that there began to be more and more growing concern over, I guess stewardship would be the word.
Yeah.
Like, and our convention got big,
It
like
did.
its
Yeah.
entities
Absolutely.
got big.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I mean, there's been a lot of work to clean that up even, right? Like,
Absolutely.
hey, how do we get more efficient? And I
Mhm.
think, I know this. I know Steve Horn is asking everybody to come to he's calling it a listening tour together, a listening
Yes.
tour. He's asking churches to come. And his goal is to sit and listen. Because
Hmm.
like what we know is that churches are, instead of giving to the cooperative program, they're directing their funding. I want to give to this. I don't want to give to that. I want to give to this. I don't want to give to that. And I mean, I'm gonna lay it on the line. Something I'm going to communicate is we need true cooperation, and you can't
Yeah.
be cooperative. You can't cooperate and control at the same time.
No, no, there has to be a level of trust, and
There
this.
does,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely,
and we got to
absolutely.
figure out how to get on the. And I think the convention is going to have to change some things. It's not just the churches that are going to have to. The convention, what Steve is doing is the right thing. I need to
Yeah,
hear directly from you. Why is it? Because we can't fix it if we're not honest with one another, if we're not authentic
absolutely.
with one another. So I love what Steve's doing. I'm going to be a part of it with him as much as I
Mhm.
can. I'm going to, be a voice. Like, I'm supportive of what he's doing. He's going in the right direction to have these conversations here in our state. And so, but we got to be real with you, and we got to say it. Like, here's why we're not
Yeah,
giving, right? Like,
yeah,
here's why we direct our giving. Like, if
yeah.
a church has decided it cannot give any funds to the North American Mission Board, which some churches have decided that, why? And then we
Mhm.
got to, Steve's going to have to communicate that. And the North American Mission Board perhaps needs to hear those things, right? If we have a large enough collection of churches that have a concern, then we need to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I also think I think the churches need to hear back, right? Like, I think
Mhm.
there's all kind of conversations that need to come out of this. And what I would challenge the local church is to consider, though, as much as you can do some good directly, man, this is so much bigger than what you can set your eyes on.
Yeah.
And
Well, the
um,
if we look back over the course of the last 100 years, cooperative program giving, I mean, it's hard to even comprehend um, the difference in what we have been able to do cooperatively. And what, when
yes,
we start looking at seminaries and we start talking about the International Mission Board, the number of missionaries on the field, and all these things, that apart from the cooperative program, those things would not be possible.
no,
Um, and,
it's
and,
a
and then
beautiful
there
thing.
is, absolutely. And there's going to be a tendency in every organization, there's a tendency toward bureaucracy. And
Sure.
that is just the larger the organization, the more temptation there is, toward those things. But but we doesn't mean we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater either.
Well, and I would encourage a young pastor right now to think this way. Even if you don't know the history, go learn the history of what we've
Yes.
done. Number one, we have inherited the most successful missions organization, I would say, in history.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And we have stewardship of it. And I just don't want to be a part of its death.
Yes.
I want to be a part of its life. Like I want to be a part of more missionaries instead of downsizing on the mission field, increasing on the mission field, and having well supported church planters who can really
Mm-hmm.
focus on what God's called them to do. And there is something we've been a part of, but here's what it's going to take is it's going to take really having a big picture vision. It's an interesting thing that we are not a denomination. We are a
Mm-hmm.
convention.
No, that's right.
And it's interesting. I mean, it's all local churches that are autonomous
Mm-hmm.
and self-governing. There's no
Yeah.
authority. Actually, we're the authority in the convention.
Yeah.
The local churches are the authority in the convention, not the other way around, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's not a denomination. A
Mm-hmm.
denominational structure would be the other direction, right? And so, but what that means is, I mean, how many churches are in the Louisiana Baptist Convention? I don't even
Oh my
remember.
goodness. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's over 1,000 or
It
something.
is. Yeah.
How many different approaches to ministry exist? Well, as
Mm-hmm.
many different churches are there as there are, right? We don't all agree on theology.
Mm-hmm.
Like soteriology is a place we don't all agree, right?
That's right. That's right.
Ecclesiology, exactly how you operate, we don't all
That's
agree.
right. That's right.
And so we have to decide, like, what are the key places we will not compromise,
That's right.
right? But as a local church, and what I would challenge everybody to really pray over is you're going to have to be okay with some things not being done the way you would do them.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
it's worth it to be a part of a bigger mission. Now, we're not going to support heresy, right? We're
No.
going to stand up and and also we need to be good stewards. And if you have questions over the stewardship of our convention dollars, you need to show up and be a part of that instead of
That's right.
pulling away from that. Like I would say, press further in, don't pull away.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a concern over how money's being handled, let's say you think a particular institution is receiving too big of a percentage, then you need to be voicing that. And if you find that that is a commonly held
Mm-hmm.
concern, the convention needs to hear that and adjust to what the churches want.
Absolutely.
If it's not a commonly held, it's just a personal thing, you might have to decide, like, are we really going to be a part of this? Because you cannot, we got to stop trying to control and say we cooperate.
Well, it's so much of it too, and you know this, Kirk. We all have gripes about different things from our perception. We look at things, and now, especially with the internet and social media and all this, we have such a polar. It's so easy to find people who agree with us and our gripes,
Right. Yep.
about these things, and we act as if, and sometimes we feel as if the convention's work is sort of removed from us. But at the same time, I mean, it's not meant to be, nor is it really. It's just we're not trying to access it. We go to Louisiana Baptist Convention. They literally hand us a book of reports that has the
That's right.
names of all the committee members that are on each and every committee. There are peers, there are fellow
That's right.
pastors, that are in our associations, and we can pick up the phone and call them. And not to mention, the convention staff. They're not in some ivory tower somewhere. I mean, in the state of Louisiana, I mean, any of us can pick up a phone and call, and they will talk with us and
That's right.
explain things to us. These documents are not hidden somewhere. I know there's things that we talk about on the SBC level and all these kind of conspiracy things people come up with, and good on them. I don't have time for all that.
Right.
But here in Louisiana, I mean, these things are easily accessible, and
Yeah.
and so I'm on the executive board, and that's a nominated thing, and those people are listed who are on there. You can call them, talk to them about these different things that are going on. And so, I mean, we have a Baptist paper that's being published. I mean, there's plenty of opportunity. It just takes time, and it takes interest and a willingness to investigate those things.
So, like that's really, the whole concept of cooperation. So like, there's two things that I would love to see if I could influence, I guess, as president. And the wording I would use is true connection and real cooperation.
Yeah,
And I think we need to see more connection amongst our churches. I think we need to
absolutely.
find some ways to help some of those smaller, just faithful cooperative program churches connect with one another, to have some of
Mhm.
these lively partnerships.
Yeah,
How do we get 5 or 6 local churches that couldn't plant a church by themselves, resources wise, but collectively as a group of 5 or 6 churches could? How do we
that's
start
right.
doing that instead of just having like the churches that have the resources to do that be the sending churches? How do we have a cooperative group? Like
Yeah.
our church has done that with the Spanish church. It's a group of 4 churches in our
Mhm.
area that are planting that church. We are cooperating together to start a church together. And I think that should be what it looks like. And I think we need more of that. I think we need like real cooperation, but we need to connect with one another, and we need to like decide the cooperation is valuable. Like if you're going to be
Yes.
Southern Baptist, all right, I'm going to be a little critical here, all right? But Scripture tells us to let our yes be our yes and our no be our
Yes.
no. And I think when it comes to being Southern Baptist, there's a lot of churches right now that their yes is a no,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
or maybe it's a maybe. Maybe our yes
Yeah.
is a maybe, right? And we got to make some decisions. Like, are we going to
Mhm.
be in with this together? And
Yeah.
I'm going to make a call. Like, hey, can we at least try again? Can we head
Mhm.
back in that direction of increasing the percentage of giving to the cooperative program again instead of shifting your funding, while we're having some conversations that maybe we can fix some of the things that are concerns for people? And what could this look like again? I think that's where Steve's trying to go. Like, hey, I need
Yeah.
to hear what these problems actually are. I hear rumors thereof more than I have conversations with
That's
people.
right.
And because here's what I would say too is, you know I think our convention tries really hard to tell the stories. I think they really
Mhm.
do, and some of that's really good. But I, mean, I do think people need to hear it. Like
Absolutely.
I hope hearing our story is
Hmm.
encouraging. Like, I
Yeah.
hope somebody listening, like I'm telling you, your church's giving to the cooperative program is why Fellowship Church exists and all that it's done. And I am like, me and my church are like truly grateful, right? It's a beautiful thing that God's done here. And man, we need to see those things. We need to hear those things. But, I do think we need to, there needs to be a balance for churches
Mhm.
in doing missions personally
Yes.
and supporting missions. And here would be my thought on it. The more effective dollar is the dollar we send to our partner than it is the dollar that buys an airplane ticket. All right. Like just
I mean,
me
that's
taking
yeah.
myself over there is not necessarily the most effective use of money, except for this. This is what we say: the partnerships are very effective and they
They
need it.
are.
Like we have 2 churches in South Africa, and we have an incredible partnership with them, and we need to travel over there and have that relationship. But we send directly to them, and then we're
Mhm.
cooperative program givers, and so we are supporters. That's actually through a different organization that we also support, and then we also have some work in Honduras that is connected to IMB, and we directly support them, and we support the cooperative program, and the partnership matters. But what we realize is that the giving beyond what we're doing really matters, and so we're going to keep doing
Absolutely.
that. And um, I think it's got to be a both and I'd really
Mhm.
challenge churches to consider what percentage of your missions dollars are actually being kind of spent on yourselves doing missions than missions beyond
Absolutely.
yourself. We really try to look at that. I'm actually been talking about that to my church on Sunday, and I want to say for us, it's about 11 or 12% of our budget is just completely, no, it's a little bit more than that. Maybe 13% of our budget is just completely beyond ourselves. And then there's a percent that helps us go.
Mhm.
And so I just really want to encourage churches to consider that, like,
Okay.
and so, and I love it. The cooperative effort is worth it. Um, we need to see one another and see that again. And I'm really
Amen.
proud. I'm really proud of Steve for what he chose to do
Mhm.
with this. It's a timely decision. Um, you know, uh, it's I'm passionate about it,
Absolutely.
and And
Well,
I
and
don't want
that's
to just sound negative. Like there's
no,
a
no,
lot that's still really good,
absolutely.
but
Well,
you know,
and that's why I wanted to have you on here today. I mean, you want to hear your heart, 'cause we want to talk about the things that certainly there are all sorts of things that need to be improved, but
right.
Fellowship Church is living proof,
Yeah.
of the grace of God that has been seen through the cooperative program, through cooperative giving, through cooperative work, not just the monies, but the work, that churches work together to do that. So, but I
Yeah. I
really,
mean, yeah,
yeah,
I think the thing here is I would tell any Southern Baptist church, like, don't be discouraged, but do
mhm,
press in. If you
amen.
become discouraged about the convention, press in, don't pull away. There's a lot of really great stuff happening. I'm not saying it's perfect. There's some things we need to
No,
learn, but let's learn them. Let's don't
that's
walk
right.
away from it.
Yeah,
Let's don't walk away from one another. Or if you're going to do that, I mean, actually, then do it. Like,
yeah,
don't be half in, right? Like, let's do this together, and let's love one another. Let's encourage one another. Let's support one another. Um, you know, man, we want to see every church win, and we need to be for one another in a beautiful way. And I think we have that in a lot of ways, but
mhm,
um, you know, ask the questions you need to ask, seek out the answers you need to find, and then help your church learn and see the value of it. And
amen, amen.
man, let's do this because I don't know. It is
Yeah,
very
it
personal.
may be a good place to land the plane today. Anyway, I think one of the things we could certainly charge people with or encourage people with is, if you're watching this in the state of Louisiana, and I would have to imagine that most people who are watching this or listening to this in the state of Louisiana, reach out to your DOM, your what I forget the different names for the directors of
Missional,
mission,
I think they're calling them
mission
associational
strategists.
strategists.
There
Yeah,
you go. There you
association
go. Well,
strategists. Yeah.
whoever it might be, I know ours is Marty Black here in Concord Union. Reach out to them and find out when Dr. Horn's going to be coming to your area,
Yes.
coming to your association to have these listening sessions. Go and be a part of that, and certainly ask those questions so you can find out about what's going on with the convention, so you can express any concerns you might have, and take part.
Yeah.
We give. If you're a Southern Baptist church, if you're a Louisiana Baptist Convention church, you're giving at least on some level.
That's
Be
right.
a participant in it and be a part of the discussion. So, but I
Yeah.
really
Actually, please do
appreciate you.
that. And the other thing I
Yeah.
would say with that is, my contact information's out there. You can
Oh
share
yeah.
my email or whatever you want to online with this if you want to. Man,
Yeah.
I
I
would.
won't. I won't throw up your phone number or anything, Kirk. But yeah, maybe your email. Maybe we'll put that on
Yeah,
the
but like
show notes.
seriously, like that's why when I was asked to consider this, there were some things. Hey, we know we got to look at some things. Like some things need to change, and I would say that's probably a good place for me to be involved. Change is probably like
Yeah.
our church approaches things pretty different. Like we're that's kind of me, my personality, and just how God wired me, and so I'm in for this. Like I think we got to
Yeah.
figure some things out, and I'd love to hear from people. Like if I really would.
Awesome.
I'd love to help. I'm here to help Steve hear that. Sometimes it's pastor to pastor that wants to be
Yeah.
talk about it. Like, hey, there might be some guys who need to call me and say, I don't think you actually know what the issues are. All right,
Well,
tell me.
why don't they tell
Let's
you?
go.
That'd be good. Yeah,
Let's
I know. Yeah,
let's
that'd be awesome. Well, yeah.
let's do it.
Well, we will. I'll put your email down in the show notes, and so if
Okay.
anybody wants to look down the description, they can find your email there. They can reach out to you that way, and y'all can set up a call or a talk or whatever it might be. And certainly, we appreciate you making yourself available in that way, and appreciate you making yourself available on here today. I know we nobody knows what's happening behind the scenes. We've gone from room to room in this rainy, dreary weather trying to find a good Wi-Fi signal. But
Yeah,
I really
we figured it
appreciate
out.
you, man. And
Well,
those
thank
of
you.
you who are watching, if you've watched this long, listened this long, please like, subscribe, all those things, yada yada. It doesn't cost you anything, and maybe somebody else will see this, will be helped by it and encouraged. So thank you so much, Kirk. Thank you for being on here with us today.
Oh man, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.